I'm probably going to make what is going to be a short and pointless video, a frivolous video, but I want to talk about problems and solutions and go back to this whole idea of an equilibrium maybe in life. And I don't think I'm going to cover everything in this subject in this video, but I'm going to try my best to cover everything in this video. And I don't want to make it long. I want to make the video shorter. So it goes down to this idea of reaching a conclusion about reality, and that's almost in a way describing in and of itself a problem without a solution. And describing and understanding reality, we're trying to figure out something and there's no solution to this problem, and the only solution you can rationally probably make up is death, and not trying to recognize the existence. Not thinking about the existence is only, you can only not think when you're dead, and that's the only solution to the problem about recognizing reality and thinking about it and conceiving it is by, and sensing it is by death, no longer existing, no longer being a victim to the circumstances. Reality is the interactive circumstances that control us, and that's our circumstantial creator, is the existence, this interaction that we're at. And in recognizing that and understanding that, not only that, the frustration interacting with other people and interacting with other sentient beings, and understanding that when you're, say, in a traffic line or whatever it is, say you're driving down the road in your vehicle, and you see someone going slowly, you can blame someone for being an a-hole, and because they're still existing in the existence that you're living in, but you're making an accusation. You're in the existence, you recognize it, but you're still in the existence. So you have the right to take responsibility and put the blame on someone else, because you're still in the existence. You're not looking from the outside, and you're not all knowing. You're not all powerful. You don't have any of this thing. You're not living outside the existence of time, because that very concept in and of itself is a contrivance that you're making up. And it doesn't exist in and of itself, and it can't exist in and of itself. It can't exist in any way, shape, or form. And you can only do so much in this reality, because the circumstances are going to control something regardless. And it doesn't matter how you feel. Your feelings are disconnected from the actions that happen in the real world. And that's another distinction. You want that person to suffer, but you're wanting, and the person actually suffering, and the things that are actually going to happen in the world, there's a disconnect, because your feelings exist. They're happening. It's a interaction that's happening that's causing this other interaction, causing this sensing, this feeling. And the feeling does exist in and of itself, and it does mean something. It does exist, but it's completely disconnected. Sort of like the speaking thing is disconnected from the actual thing. The speaking is an interaction. You're speaking. The thing that's causing you to speak is an interaction based on your psychological interaction and what you want it to mean. And when you say it, that interaction exists. The interaction of your vocal cords and your diaphragm and things making your voice come out of your mouth, and the interaction of the thing that you're looking at, the perceptual interaction of yourself wanting to say something, describe something, the perceptual interaction of you looking at something, wanting to describe it, and interacting with something, and the interaction of you saying these things and sensing these things, and then interacting with the thing that you want to describe. They do exist, but they're all disconnected, but they're in the same thing. They're in the same reality that we're existing in. I'm saying something, that's an interaction. I'm thinking something, that's an interaction. I'm thinking something, I'm seeing something, that's an interaction. I'm thinking about what I want to say, that's an interaction. The interactions all exist in and of themselves. The speaking exists in and of itself. My thinking exists in and of itself. And the interaction of me perceiving that thing exists in and of itself. It exists in and of itself, to say the tree or the wall I'm looking at. Sort of like when you're looking at the darkness beyond the veil, beyond the blinds that you're looking at, beyond the screen door. You look back, there's nothing but darkness and blurriness, but then you look back and you see, oh, I'm seeing things clearly now. And it creates a bigger image the further back you get. And the further back you get, you start seeing the bigger picture. And just like that, you can understand the reality more that you're living in, and understanding that there's more to this. Not necessarily more to, but more to than what you're not understanding, but you're also recognized there's more to than understanding that there's not much more to understand other than the very basic things that you see. Looking past the blinds, it's blurry and dark, you can't see anything, and you move back beyond the screen door, and you start seeing more of what's really going on, and it creates a big picture, and you can start seeing things for exactly what they are, as opposed to making things up and seeing a blurry vision and just making things up because you can't necessarily see, or not having glasses, or whatever it may be that's confusing you, or confusing your senses and understanding the reality that's happening around you. So yes, reaching conclusions is obviously something we have to do, and that's exactly what we're supposed to do in solving these problems. And we're trying to solve these problems, the problems that we experience on a day-to-day basis, and it can be solved sort of like eating. We're eating, so you eat, and that's a problem that can be solved, sort of like, even though it's the satisfaction that means something in the end. The satisfaction matters more than anything, and that's a problem that can be solved. Food can satisfy hunger, but recognizing the reality that we're living in is a problem that can't be solved as easily as, or if at all, in the same way that understanding the reality, like I said, it can be solved by, say, not existing anymore, not recognizing it anymore. And eating can be satisfying. That's the satisfaction that matters. And it's something that can be physically satisfied. And in a way, when you're hungry, you get repulsed by food once you satisfied your hunger enough, and you no longer want to eat. So you're almost, in a way, compensating for the problem that you didn't have before, and compensating it with another problem that's just as bad. You're getting rid of something only to have some other burden, and to look forward to some other burden, some other tail. You're just finding another dog to chase around in the tail circle that you're trying to chase, and they're chasing your tail, and you're chasing their tail, or you're just chasing your own tail. And it's about creating that cycle, or finding things and contriving things to create a cycle like that. And that's exactly the game that we're playing in, is a cycle of moving back and forth, going around in circles. And in recognizing this reality that we're living in, it's the problem with no solution is recognizing exactly the game that we're playing in. The frustration of understanding that all these different things are moving out. Not only that, but also the futility of life and existence. Recognizing how there's nothing you could do because all these other things are interacting, and you're interacting with the environment too, and you can only do so much to mitigate against these things. Sort of like I said, driving in traffic or whatever it may be, and realizing that they're interacting in the world just as much as you're interacting in the world, and you're trying your best to interact, and you can only do so much, and understand that they're doing the same thing, and you can only do so much in understanding that the person is interacting in a different way than you are. But you can only do so much in the interaction, because you know there's someone else that has different circumstances, and you need to make sure that you understand their circumstances to a certain degree, but you can only do so much. And since you're obviously within the game, you can take responsibility and you can give blame. You're still in the game, and you have that ability because you're in the game, and you're not contriving some kind of otherworldly being that can look inside. No Cthulhu, no nothing beyond or understanding. But even then, those things are inside the universe. They have a physical matter. They're inside this universe. They're existing. So they work on the same level as all these different things. Sort of like the superficial uniqueness of our character. It can only get so unique. And, we're still mouths and buttholes. And that's all we are. We're peeing, we're pooping, and we're eating, and we're satisfying sexual gratification with our genitals, and that's all we're doing, is satisfying these same things over and over again. And generally it's the same thing, and based on the same function. A practical function is just hoping these things work as well, and practically speaking, and that's all that matters, is these things practically working. And at that point, practically working is the best you can get, and the only thing you can do is get worse than the practically working function of the existence in the game that we're playing, and the desires that we need to satisfy, and the gaps we need to fill. And hopefully you have a functioning mouth, you have a functioning anus, you have a functioning bladder, you have a functioning body that works, and that's all you can hope for in this world, is hope, and this existence is hope that at least things stay as good as they can stay, based on your initial existence, or based on the practical function of your existence, and the function of your being, and the interactions, and your physical processes, and the interactions that you have, and hoping for the best. And that can be applied to anything on the outside, not just your bodily function, but hoping to mitigate against the bad, as opposed to trying to hope for some best, because the best, you shouldn't let the perfect get in the way of the good kind of concept, and you shouldn't let that get in the way of having some kind of satisfaction to a certain degree. You shouldn't let the wanting for something get in the way of the non-failure, as opposed to just not getting the great satisfaction that you want out of something. So even though you don't get as satisfied as you want, you satisfied it to a degree where it's practically functioning, and that's all you need, is the functioning. It didn't get worse, and that's in many cases all you can hope for, as opposed to getting the best you can possibly get out of something. And it's a matter of mitigating against the bad, and mitigating against the bad, and almost in a way giving up whatever good you can have in return for the bad that you might have, giving up whatever good you feel like you need, and then to replace the bad that you wouldn't want. So you'd rather have less bad than more good than less bad. So you want more good and more bad, and less bad than more good. So it's about making that judgment. And you want the bad less than you want the good. You want the bad less than you want the good more. Sorry. So I think that's all I want to say. And reaching the conclusions that we do about this existence, there's only so many problems to a solution. If there's any solutions to a problem to begin with, and recognizing reality that you're reaching a dead end, even though you can distract yourself, there's problems sort of like describing something in and of itself. The superficial aspects of your appearance, you happen to look a certain way because that's the function of your existence. You look a certain way, you have eyes, and they happen to be shaped a certain way, but the shape that they have, unless it serves a practical function, such as seeing, it doesn't serve any function beyond that. But in a way, everything has some kind of meaning. Any hope or wish has some kind of effect or cause or interaction. Everything has an interaction, but in and of itself, it doesn't solve any practical function other than, say, ego gratification of looking yourself in the mirror and being satisfied. But the function it serves in and of itself doesn't exist. Sort of like understanding the reality we're living in. I'm sorry, I lost my place. And it doesn't serve any function in and of itself, and that's what we're trying to figure out, is some kind of function that exists in and of itself, and there's just nothing happening here existing in and of itself. And that goes back to the problem. We're not going to find any problem that exists. We're not going to find any solution to the problem that exists in and of itself. The solution doesn't exist. Sort of like beyond the superficial existence of, say, something appearance or some kind of meaning based on our interaction of my psychology. The only thing that it has is by way of proxy interaction. By proxy, it means something to my psychology or something, or someone else's interaction with me. It all means something, but in and of itself, it doesn't mean anything. Sort of like food serving a practical function to my satisfying my sight satisfying something. And along those lines, in describing situations. But in and of itself, a solution to a problem doesn't exist to an understanding the futility and the existence of life on here, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't. There's no solution in of itself that describes a situation, a solution to the problem, other than ignoring or finding ways to ignore it or distract yourself from the recognition. Sort of like eating has a solution practically by satisfying your hunger, and the satisfaction is the thing that matters, and it serves the satisfaction, sort of like the satisfaction of seeing, and the idea of equilibrium making up for the idea if you have no sight, you have more hearing or whatever, and you can't apply that to sentient existence. You can't apply that to sentient feelings because you're only applying a vague concept such as equilibrium, that things are going to work a certain way. You're applying things are going to happen a certain way with an equilibrium, and just because things happen a certain way doesn't mean there's an equilibrium. Sort of like you can apply it more to you can use more of a word like compensation. You can compensate for a lack of eyesight. You have more vision, or you have more hearing, and then you make up for that. There's almost no way a self-built-in compensation factor to the sentient experience or to this biological mechanism that's happening. Things are working and interacting, but that doesn't mean there's an equilibrium. You're applying that to, when you apply that to something, a thing where there's possible for sentient things to exist, you're justifying their harm, and you're just saying let things run amok, and justifying that, even though we know that's not true, and our very biological interactions and feelings and sensations go against that. We know that we have these feelings, and obviously things are going to happen a certain way, and in a way that can be applied to some kind of equilibrium idea, like I've mentioned before. But you can't apply it when there's a sentient being. Well, in a way, you apply that sort of like a person goes to jail or something in reaction to a crime being committed or something like that. But that's just the way the mechanism works. Sort of like things are interacting, things are going to happen. Applying an equilibrium in a way just to justify it is only a concept or a contrivance that you're using in your head to justify something you may have done. If that makes any sense. I don't know if it makes any sense. But I think that's good enough for right now. I think I changed the subject too much, and I'm not in the mood to make videos right now, so I apologize if I'm a little dull right now. But I'm just trying my best to make the videos as good as I can. I need to make the videos. I have an obligation, so I'm trying my best. So thank you, and until next time, bye.